What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Cali Kid Official Podcast. This is episode number 19, so let's get right into it. So, over the weekend, we had the match featuring Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning versus Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady. Basically, it was sort of like a charity event to raise money for COVID, but it also acted as like a rematch for Tiger and Phil Mickelson because Phil won the last Masters, so this was kind of like a rematch game. So the event was pretty cool. You know, Peyton Manning, he's a pretty funny dude. He has some pretty funny one-liners. Like he said, "I would never wear red and black. That's Georgia Bulldogs unless you want to see me puke on the first hole." Because there was asking why didn't he match Tiger Woods' dressing attire? Because you know Tiger likes to wear that red and black. And because Tom and Phil was wearing identical colors and whatnot. So he said that, and also he said that in part to him, you know, being a former member of the Tennessee Volunteers. And, you know, them and Georgia are both in the SEC, so, you know, they still got that rivalry. And then he said, pretty good putt considering the crowd noise. And, you know, there's not nobody around but the golfers and the media, but let's get into the round. So hole one and two, it was tied, and then holes 3 and 4, Tiger and Manning won, so that put them up 2. Then hole 5 was tied. Then hole 6, Tiger and Manning won that one, and then on hole 7 was probably like the shot of the entire match. Brady hit like this hit this shot on his third shot, I believe on a par 4. It went up in the air, did a backspin, came all the way back and went in, and so he got a birdie on that. So I wanted to show that clip. It was pretty cool.
What do you got left here, Tom?
What?
Third.
I think you just made him mad, Chuck.
Oh no, I love it though, man.
Yeah, Chuck was talking mess the whole time. So watch this. Look at that. Backspin. Look at that.
You made it! Wow!
He said, take a shot at that, Chuck. Yeah, because he was talking trash the whole time. Charles Barkley, Chuck is his nickname. He was talking trash about Brady, talking about, oh, I want to play you. I'm going to give you a handicap. I'm going to give you 8 shots. But, like, later in the day, like, Chuck, I think he played on hole 18, and like basically if he either got a birdie, a par, or a bogey, depending on those numbers, money will be raised. This dude ended up getting a triple bogey, so even though he got that, they still donated $100,000. But that mess was funny. But that was probably the best shot of the entire match. And then hole 8 they tied again, and then I think, yeah, like right after hole 8, or sometime after that, Brady was like, Eli would have made that one, because Eli was commenting too. That was crazy. I think one point he was like, somebody asked, why didn't you join Peyton as like his caddy, or why didn't you join Peyton as like his partner? And he was like, I can't always carry this family, and he's referencing him having more Super Bowls than Peyton. So that part is kind of funny too. So, but moving into hole 9, they tied, and then going into the back 9 shots, from hole 9 to 18, they played what is called alternate shots. Basically, whoever drives the ball, the next person, you know, will hit from there. So basically, if one person hit it in an unfavorable position, then the other person would take over from there. So hole 10, we got another tie, and then hole 11, Brady managed to hit an eagle, so that cut it to them being down by 1 shot. Hole 12 tied again. Hole 13 was tied, but Phil missed the opportunity to make the match play even. He missed a birdie shot to win the hole, and then Tom and Phil, they hit on 14. They ended up winning that hole, I guess, because I think Woods and Manning conceded that hole for some reason. I don't remember. And then holes 15 through 18 was all tied. So ultimately, Tiger and Manning, they won. Tiger, he managed to hit the fairway on all 18 holes, which is impressive because he struggled with that, throughout his career. So this shows you that he's been working on that part of his game. And if, the PGA Tour was going on, he'd be a serious contender to win a lot of them based on how he was playing at this one. And then in total, they raised $20 million for COVID. So that was pretty cool. The whole affair was dope. Like Brady, when he hit that chip shot that went in on that par 4, he ended up ripping his pants because he got so excited. So that was kind of funny too. But for the most part, Brady was struggling. Don't quit your day job, Brady. You can't be good at everything. Then he was like, now that we've tried your sport, do you guys want to try ours? Like, imagine Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson trying to play some football. I don't think people want to see that. They gonna end up, in somebody's medical home from getting hit too hard. But it was a pretty dope event. And then moving on from that to some shenanigans. This guy by the name of Christian Cooper was in Central Park taking a jog or whatever. There's a woman there by the name of Amy Cooper, but they're calling her Central Park Karen. She basically called the cop on the guy because he told her to put her dog on a leash because that's one of the rules of that park. And she basically did what people like her usually do, to say, I'm gonna call the cops, and then acting all frantic on the phone and stuff. And ultimately the whole thing cost her job. She had to return the dog back to the place she adopted it from. And it's ironic that both of their last names is Cooper. But I wanted to show you guys that. So the whole encounter is like a little over a minute. And like, you're gonna see her like doing more harm to the dog. Like, she's like choking him.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone out.
Please don't come close to
I'm
me.
taking pictures calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm gonna tell them there's an African American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
He ain't threatening her. I don't understand why people do that, because they feel as though they can abuse the system. That's what a lot of people do. They think they can abuse the system and get away with it. But in certain instances,
I'm sorry,
they get reprimanded, as in this case.
He's recording me and threatening me and my dog.
And you see it has almost 44 million views. So
I'm in Central Park. He's recording me and threatening myself and my dog.
he ain't threatening you. You choking a dog out. Like, look at it. The dog trying to get away.
Sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
Crazy, right? And then right here it says the dog that she rescued back in 2018 was returned to the nonprofit she adopted him from. Now it's being reported that she's been fired from her job at an investment management company, Franklin Templeton. She later issued an apology. Yeah, she only issued an apology because she got videotaped and fired. If none of that happened, she wouldn't be apologizing. I sincerely and humbly apologize to everyone, especially to that man, his family, she told WNBC. It was unacceptable, and I humbly and fully apologize to everyone who's seen that video, everyone that's been offended, everyone who thinks of me in a lower light, and I understand why they do. When I think about the police, I'm such a blessed person. I come to realize, especially today, that I think of the police as a protection agency, and unfortunately this has caused me to realize that there are so many people in this country that don't have that luxury. Exactly, and that's one of the biggest problems that's plaguing the world. You have people taking advantage of things and treating people based on what they can get away with. And then the company put out a tweet saying, following their review, we've terminated her effective immediately. We do not tolerate racism of any kind. I mean, it's good that that happened, but it's like, it's so much stuff going on, which I'm going to get into shortly after this, that it's like all these different events that's springing up like this is just contributing more and more into a powder keg, which is basically what happened with George Floyd being killed. If you guys don't know, which I'm pretty sure everybody does, George Floyd was an African American man. He was accused of trying to pay for something with a counterfeit bill. The police was called. He was handcuffed, and then at some point, Officer Derek Chauvin got the guy to the ground at some point, put his knee into the back of his neck, which resulted in George losing his life. And since that event, a whole bunch of anarchy has sprung up. You have several different protests taking place in Minneapolis, New Mexico, California, Colorado, etc. Buildings have been burned in Minneapolis, looting. I ain't seen Target get looted. I ain't saw provocateurs inciting the event. You had some off-duty officer breaking the windows on an AutoZone, and that video is floating around on the internet. And then you have members of the media playing fake gun sounds to make it seem as though the event is more than what it is. Then you had CNN reporters and a whole team get arrested. Omar Jimenez and his crew, they got arrested. All of the officers involved in the incident have been fired. Derek Chauvin, as of today, has been arrested and charged with third-degree murder as well as manslaughter. That third-degree murder charge comes with a maximum of 25 years. Manslaughter in Minnesota comes between 0 to 15 years plus a $30,000 fine. The other officers involved are being looked into as well. What's interesting is that Derek and George both worked at a nightclub called El Nuevo Rodeo Club together. Derek was a hired security officer for the club, and George worked as a bouncer in the club. So seeing that, it could be possible that this could have been premeditated. That's one of the theories that's being floated around. Who knows if that's true? But the officer does have a history of lashing out with violence. But I wanted to show the video of the officers pulling up to arrest him. So, because what they said is the reason why they had him on the ground was like that is because he was resisting arrest or whatever. But once you have a guy in handcuffs, there's no need for all of that extra stuff. But you know, police always lying about what somebody allegedly did. So this is them pulling up to his car, I guess getting him out the car or whatever. There's no sound for the video, but right now they just at the car. And the original officers that got him out the car wasn't the same two that contributed to, you know, him being put on the ground or whatever. I guess Derek came sometime after. So the video is about like 7 minutes long, so I wanted to skip through and get to them actually getting him out the car. So you got a guy with a red hat on and dreads. See, they got him handcuffed. Officer of the bald head got him handcuffed, got him seated up against the wall. See, right now he's sitting on his behind up against a wall. Another police truck just pulled up. In the video, he's clearly seated. He's not resisting arrest or nothing. He's handcuffed. Right now, there's 3 officers on the scene. One of the officers in the background is talking to the guy with the red hat and the dreads. The officer with the bald head, I guess, wrote a ticket. Another officer is looking it over. Right now, they just stood George up. George was talking to the officer with the bald head. So he was just walked off screen, then placed back on the ground. Now you got two officers escorting him to somewhere else. Yeah, they just walked him across the street. That don't even make any sense. So yeah, throughout this 7-minute video, there's no instance of him resisting like they lied and said he did. And then, so since this event, you know, as I said, you got various different protests going on. I know here in California, they blocking the 101 freeway.
Do this crowd and tried to move them off the freeway, just driving very slowly.
They formed a human chain. You know, the 101 is one of the busiest freeways in California.
Forming a skirmish line on the freeway. Those are the two cruisers right there. You see,
and then some of the cruisers' windows then got smashed up.
The both rear. You see that skateboard sticking out of that rear windshield.
Yeah,
as
people
well
are tired of this. It's like it's the same thing over and over again. Like you had this guy, you had a mod, and then you had another woman.
Of the last hour or so.
Another woman killed in her home while she was sleeping. Like that must is crazy. So it's like people is fed up. People was fed up. Yeah, her name is Breonna Taylor. It says she was asleep. It says woman was shot and killed in her Louisville, Kentucky home. This was in May 13th, so about a little over 2 weeks ago, by police executing a botched search warrant who forced their way in, surprising a woman and her boyfriend who thought the officers were burglars, her family says in a lawsuit. She was an EMT worker. Says she and her boyfriend thought they were being burglarized when he fired at the officers in self-defense. The lawsuit accuses the 3 officers of blindly firing more than 20 shots into the apartment. After the March 13th incident, the Louisville Metro Police Department said the officers had knocked on the door several times and announced their presence as police who were there with a search warrant. After forcing their way in, they were immediately met by gunfire. Of course, they're going to say that, just like that lady in Texas that lied and said, oh, I thought he was in my apartment or whatever. Nah. All this stuff is leading up to overall martial law and overall civil unrest. All these little different instances, I don't think they're coincidences. It's like this stuff is happening too frequently and within a span of what, 1 to 3 months after each other. And then you had Ahmaud Arbery, who was a guy that was jogging in his neighborhood and was basically hunted down and murdered because they lied and said people's homes and stuff were being burglarized, which, you know, according to official reports, there was no instances of burglaries taking place within that neighborhood. So, but those 3 individuals are sitting in prison as well. They've been charged, but if these people don't get the correct sentencing, this is gonna get worse. It's gonna get way worse, because we pretty much already in martial law. I mean, a few months back, that's probably why a few months back you had all the different National Guards and all these different people moving into different cities, because they knew what was about to come. This virus was gonna create unrest. And then you got people going around killing people for no reason whatsoever. But yeah, let's get back to the case with George Floyd. So you got more people protesting. So you got people protesting outside of the detention center in LA. You had people pull up to where the officer was living. You had a whole bunch of cops protecting his house. They pulled up to his Florida property as well, so people ain't gonna let this go unanswered. But the looting part, I don't support that. That's just people being dumb. But this right here is what I was talking about in regards to him having a history of lashing out. It says, the officer who knelt on the neck of George Floyd opened fire on 2 people during his 19-year career and had nearly 20 complaints and 2 letters of reprimand filed against him. That right there is the first red flag. It says, let's see here. He moonlighted as a bouncer at a downtown Latin nightclub. He was among a group of 6 officers who opened fire on a stabbing suspect in 2006 after a chase that ended when the suspect pointed a sawed-off shotgun at them. The suspect, Wayne Reyes, was hit multiple times and died. A grand jury decided to use the force was justified. 2 years later, Chauvin shot Ira Latrell Toles as he was responding to a domestic dispute. According to a Pioneer press account of the incident, a 911 operator received a call from an apartment and heard a woman yelling for someone to stop hitting her. Chauvin and another officer arrived just as Toles locked himself in the bathroom. Chauvin forced his way into the bathroom. Toles went for Chauvin's gun and Chauvin shot him twice in the stomach. Toles survived and was charged with 2 counts of felony obstruction. Toles told the Daily Beast that the mother of his child called police that night and he fled into the bathroom after officers broke down the apartment door. Chauvin then broke down the bathroom door and started to hit him without warning. He said he fought back in self-defense and was too disoriented to go for Chauvin's gun. So basically he was hit so much to the point to where he probably suffered a concussion. He tried to kill me in that bathroom, Torres said. Online city records show 17 complaints filed. 16 complaints were closed with no discipline. So basically they looked over all of his indiscretions and let him continue his job as usual. The remaining complaint generated two letters of reprimand, with one apparently related to the use of a squad car dashboard camera. The records don't include any details of the substance of the complaints. In 2011, he was among 5 officers who chased down an American Indian, Leroy Martinez, in a housing complex after they spotted him running with a pistol. One of the officers, Terry Nutter, shot Martinez in the torso. Martinez survived. All the officers were placed on leave but absolved of any wrongdoing, with Police Chief Timothy Dolan saying they acted appropriately and courageously. A much different side was portrayed in a 2018 newspaper profile of his wife Kelly, a Laotian refugee who became the first Hmong Miss Minnesota. She told the St. Paul Pioneer Press that they met when he dropped off a suspect at a Minneapolis hospital where she worked. Under that uniform, he's just a softie, she said. He's such a gentleman. He still opens the door, blah, blah, blah. Online records indicate that the officer who stood guard the scene was suited for. So yeah, he basically has a history of having a short fuse. That's basically what it is, but yeah. This ain't gonna die down anytime soon. Once the verdict and the trial or whatever is completed, that's when people will have an assessment of what's going to happen next. But if this guy gets off, all of Minnesota is going to burn, pretty much, because people is tired and fed up of seeing the same thing repeat over and over and over and over and over again. So moving on from that, apparently Trump is taking on Twitter because he posted a tweet and Twitter felt as though the tweet was what he was putting out was false news, because Trump basically said that mail-in votes contribute to widespread voter fraud. So he was going to do something to where mail-in votes wouldn't count, or mail-in votes wouldn't be as accessible as they normally would. So, you know, Twitter, they put their little disclaimer thing on the tweet, basically to showcase that this isn't real news, and he got mad at it, and he basically said that he was going to file an executive order to basically limit the protection that social media companies have against what their members post. So, but this is the whole story right here. Says President Trump lashed out Twitter Friday morning for covering up his tweet with a warning label that said it was glorifying violence. He said, Twitter is doing nothing about all the lies and propaganda being put up by China or the radical left Democratic Party. They have targeted Republicans, conservatives, and the President of the United States. Section 230 should be revoked by Congress. Until then, it will be regulated. Yeah, and he's inciting violence. Like, he put a tweet out that said, these thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd. First of all, that thugs terminology is code for, you know, N-word, because he didn't use that same rhetoric when it came to those people that were armed with guns outside of a state building because they were pissed off about them not being able to go out and get haircuts and stuff like that. He said those are good people or whatever. He says he spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with them all the way and any difficulty, and we will assume control, but when the looting starts, the shooting starts. So yeah, that's incite violence. He basically saying that he's going to send in the state troopers and everybody else, you know, to shoot the people that's looting. Which I don't condone the people that's looting, but saying you're going to kill them, that's a bit excessive. So the executive order, which was signed on Thursday, seeks to make social media sites such as Twitter and Facebook live for the content posted by their users, which is what I was just talking about. If enforced, the order will overturn decades of precedent by treating the websites as publishers, which could be sued for user-generated content. And you know, that's not going to go over well. Currently, the sites are protected by a law known as Section 230, which shields them from liability. Section 230 also allows social platforms to moderate their services by removing posts that, for instance, are obscene, violate the services on standards so long as they are acting in good faith. Critics argue that Section 230 gives internet companies a free pass on things like hate speech and content that supports terror organizations. I mean, with anything that gets that big, it's only so much one person can do. You can't really restrict what a person might put out into the world. You can't restrict that. You have billions of people online. It's impossible to try to police that, because all this rhetoric talking about trying to legislate and regulate is the same thing that Nazi Germany did when it came to media and all that type of stuff. Basically, the only voice that mattered or got a say-so was that of the state and not of the people, which is what this is starting to kind of mirror. Yeah, you can't be saying stuff like that, because that is inciting violence. You can't be out here inciting violence. But that right there is crazy though. But moving on from that, apparently a YouTube couple is under fire for basically rehoming their adoptive Chinese son. So, according to the article, the name of the couple is Micah and James Stauffer. They adopted this Chinese kid named Huxley in 2017, and basically they documented, you know, every event leading up from that time up until now. But then at some point they decided to rehome him because they said due to his unspecified behaviors. So the kid, when they adopted the kid, he had a brain tumor as well as brain damage. So of course, you know, with that, there's going to be some special needs and attention paid to the child. They said that they knew about that part, but they didn't know about him having a sensory processing disorder, and that while he was in the womb, he had a stroke as well. So basically what happened is it became too much and they pawned the kid off onto another person. But that's not really the part that's making people mad. What's making people mad is that they pretty much blew up and made money mostly off of propping up this kid and monetize content. So it says their Gotcha Day video, which has over 5.7 million views, showed them picking up Huxley from the agency, bringing him home and integrating him with their family. Then they ran this fundraiser where for every $5 they donated a puzzle piece, 1,000 in total, which would be a lot to show basically a photo of what he looked like. And they basically used the money from all these different donations and fundraisers to fund their trips over to get him, as well as to go on all these different lavish vacations. And then through them adopting him, they've acquired a whole bunch of different sponsors. Since this event has happened, a lot of the sponsors have distanced themselves from them, primarily Playtex Baby, Chili's, Danimals, Big Lots, and Suave. But yeah, this is another example of people manipulating and using child as a prop to further themselves. And so, it's outraged a lot of people. You got people signing petitions saying that all of their content involving him needs to be taken down. So, like, you got people on Twitter, it says, Micah Stafford and her husband James adopted a boy from China and exploited him for YouTube clout. Yeah, a lot of people do. That's what they do. They adopt these kids and then they exploit them. And then at points when things get too tough, they push him off onto other people. But when he got older, they found him a new forever home, like a puppy that outgrew its welcome and not an actual human being. White people must stop treating us like their own dogs. And the irony of that forever home thing is the thumbnail for their video says 2 years of Huxley, day 1 to forever. Well, I guess forever was only, 4 years? According to them. And it says, the situation with Micah Stafford is so upsetting. When you adopt a child, you act as though you literally gave birth to the child, that they're fully yours. They aren't a dog you adopted from the pound that you get to return in 14 days if they aren't a good fit. Which is what the family was saying. They were saying that because of his behavior issues or whatever, he started not to be a good fit for the family. But they have 4 other kids. What if one of their other kids have similar medical problems? Are y'all gonna do the same thing, put them off onto another home because y'all can't deal with the needs of that child? When you going into adopting someone and that someone has medical issues and you going knowing that they have medical issues, now it might be probable that some of the medical issues were withheld, but at least you guys knew he had a tumor on his brain as well as brain damage, so you know that he was going to need some special help and that he was going to have a hard time, functioning like a normal, human. Those are things you have to take into mind. You can't go in thinking, oh, it's just going to be this one thing and not other things are going to come up out of that. And so that's why a lot of people is mad, which I don't blame people for being mad. People got to stop doing that. I do feel as though that they exploited that child, and then when things got tough, they wiped their hands clean. And so basically the article goes on talking about how they was the ones that decided to put their family in the public eye or whatever. This is crazy. And then of course they make the crocodile tear video that people do when they ain't messed up. So there's one tweeter says, my heart aches for poor Huxley. They dragged this poor little boy all the way from China, making him start all over again, then giving up on him. 80% of her followers she gained from the adoption story. And that's the exploitation part. Got sponsorships and her subs even funded the trip to China. Yeah. This thing tends to happen within the content creator community. At various points, it's unfortunate where you have people do things that either manipulate or exploit someone or something. And it's unfortunate that, things like this happen. But when things like this do happen, it's good that these people are called out and made to be held accountable for their actions. But that's crazy. That's right there is crazy. But moving on from that, it's looking like the NBA is bracing to return. I've read that they're aiming for July to start to get back to the action. They're looking into having a play-in tournament. But one of the things that I found peculiar is that they vehemently want Zion Williamson to be involved in the tournament. Okay, no problem. But the problem with that is the team that he plays for is ranked 10th in the Western Conference, and based on regular seeding, that would leave him out of the playoffs, because usually the playoffs is I believe it's 8 teams from each conference, so 16 teams total. But 75% of the GMs want to play in tournament, which will allow teams near the bottom of the league to play to get into the postseason. And then you have the World Cup option as well, where like the top seeds will start at a certain point, and then you have different seeding placements or whatever. But people just want just want some entertainment, because it's so much going on in the world. People losing their mind, doing dumb stuff. So people just want some form of entertainment. But I don't know, a play-in tournament would be interesting, but I don't think you should try to manipulate the system to get somebody to play in it, because the only reason they want Zion in it is because of the ratings. You know, all these different corporations and stuff is losing money, so they're doing whatever they can to try to get things to reopen or start back up, because people are losing their ass in terms of money. So that's crazy. But we also got some new music this week, as well as some upcoming music that's supposed to be released. So after the Versus battle with Jagged Edge and 112, Jagged Edge announced that they're going to be releasing a new album called A Jagged Love Story. It's going to be 22 songs and is slated to be released in June. Travis Scott and Rosalia partner up again for her single TKN, which I'm going to be doing a reaction video to that at some point. Lady Gaga just dropped her album called Chromatica. It has 16 records. It features Blackpink. If you don't know, it's a K-pop group. Elton John and Ariana Grande. The singles are Rain on Me, which is with Ariana, Sour Candy with Blackpink, and Sign from Above with Elton John. I haven't had a chance to actually listen to the project, but this one, as well as the other ones I'm going to talk about, I'm going to listen to them and probably give my review on the next podcast. But we had that project, and Lil Yachty dropped Little Boy 3. It has 19 records. Features is Tierra Whack, Drake, The Baby, Lil Key, Thug, Dirk, Future, ASAP Rocky, Tyler the Creator, Draft Day, Mike Will Made It. I'm not really expecting too much. My expectations aren't really too high for this project, because his last one, Little Boy 2, was very mediocre and underwhelming. So I'm going to listen to it, but I'm not expecting too much from it. But we'll see what he's coming with. And then lastly, Kiago dropped their project Golden Hour. It has 18 records, and it features Valerie Broussard, One Republic, Jamie and Commons, Zach Abel, Sandro Cavazza, Saint Lundy, Kim Petras, Oh Wonder, Dreamlab, Whitney Houston, which is that single Higher Love, Sasha Sloan, Sam Tennis, Patrick Droney, Petey, Joe Janiak, Zara Larson, and Tyga with the single Like It Is. I've reacted to that record, which you can check out on my YouTube channel. And then Zach Brown, Rice Lewis, and Hawks. So we got a lot of new music this week. So I'll be listening to that Kiago, Yachty, and Gaga project, as well as reacting to a couple of songs as well. So y'all gonna get the review for those projects next week. But that's pretty much gonna do it for this week's podcast. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Those listening on Spotify or whatever else, I appreciate you all for tuning in. Make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, you can watch the video version on my YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, you can listen on Spotify, Google, everywhere else. I have an album out. It's called Euphoria. Make sure you guys check that out. You can listen to it on Spotify. It's available for purchase everywhere. And until the next podcast, peace.